Let's speed on through to this next event as we now learn how to do some speedrunning.
Okay, good.
Yes, we're good to go. Okay. Yes, go ahead. All right, excellent. Hello, everyone. My name is Eryth. I am doing the speedrunning panel on how to go fast. So I'm going to kind of talk about a couple different things today. I'm using videos as my medium to do a lot of this just because I think I could talk a lot about like how to get into speedrunning and how to do it, but I think visuals are like way better than me just talking to you about a bunch of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a video that kind of talks a little bit about background of like speedrunning and my experience speedrunning. So I'm not going to talk too much and introduce myself because I'm going to let the video do that. All I'm going to say is that my goal for this panel is that if you came in here thinking like, yeah, I've always been interested in speedrunning, or I'm considering something that I might want to pick up, my goal is that by the end of this, you will have a hopefully slightly more inclination to run that game that you've been thinking about running. Okay, so we're going to play the best part of a speedrun, which is making sure the technology works. So let's find out. Ah, yes, classic. Does it? Oh, let me try that again. Oh my goodness. Come on. I'm having so much trouble getting it to click on the video player. What was it that said earlier, like the video players are destined not to work? Ah, yes, okay. It would help if I had VR chat open to actually copy paste the link into, huh? There we go. Okay.
In speedrunning sometimes, dumb things happen, like mashing B.
No!
And dropping your fish and overwriting important items.
Wow, rip the run.
Sometimes you don't know how to deal with getting stuck on a seam. Sometimes things that don't make any sense happen all the time.
Play music working.
Like,
are you kidding me?
No. Sometimes you see scary stuff.
You only get the red
Sometimes you get trolled by the fish and can't pick it up in the bottle.
And then you just you could just get the elevator story instead of the
Why?
body story.
Why?
Sometimes you get trolled by the fish in pivotal parts of the run, and the run dies.
What is this? What?
I want to welcome you to the world of speedrunning. My name is Eryth. I used to go by Latias Lulu on Twitch when I was still streaming a lot. I got my start off playing Ocarina of Time, in which I've speedrun the game for the past 10 years. When I first started running, I would run a category called MST, standing for Medallions, Stones, and Trials. Essentially, it's like all dungeons, but there are some restrictions. Over the course of time, I started getting involved in other things called bingos. Bingos are where you take a bingo card and race with other players for selected goals and try to see who can route the fastest. It really got me interested in routing this time. Through the course of doing a bingo, I noticed that one of the systems that I was using, all of the items happened to be blue, including a glitched gauntlet that you could get that was colored blue. By doing this, my friend pointed out that all of my stuff was blue. Blue tunic, blue gauntlets, and I had a lot of blue items like the ocarina and bombs. My friend jokingly said, "Hey, it's like blue percent," in which case I got an idea. So I started routing with a couple other of my friends who were good runners and created a category known as blue percent. This category ended up getting popular enough and enough people ran it that it actually ended up getting on the leaderboards as a category extension. This was sort of my introduction into understanding how to route and becoming really interested in what it meant to speedrun.
Just in time? What if there was a movie with Justin Timberlake where he had to go back in time travel and it was called Kill Ya? Alright.
Shortly after making Blue Percent, I decided that I wanted to route other things for fun as well. I made another category shortly after called Go Home and Die Percent, with the premise being that it's possible to damage boost using a bomb shoe into your house to die on the same frame that you enter your home. Normally, you can't use bombs inside your house, including bomb shoes, because of the way it restricts your items. Surprisingly enough, this category did super well. A lot of people were really interested in optimizing this route because of the fact that it was so short, which meant the price for entry was a lot lower than a 2-hour route such as Blue Percent. This route in fact got so popular that 16 other runners started picking it up, enough to the point that there is a tool-assisted speedrun, also known as TAS, online that someone did of this run. Having someone task my route actually was something I had never expected, and it gave me actually more motivation to keep running and writing more silly routes. Following writing Go Home and Die Percent, I decided to write another silly category. This one was called America Percent that I used to run every 4th of July. The way it would work is using a series of glitches, it's possible to obtain the blue potion, the milk, and the red potion all as child. We would then drink all 3 of them and clip out of bounds to show our freedom. I would then follow this up by eating 2 double doubles from In-N-Out as well as animal style fries. A route that I wrote not too long ago, around a year or 2 ago, is called Bonk into All Trees, in which the goal was for me to route out and find where every tree in the game was and to bonk into all of them.
On the board.
We gotta bonk into one tree first. Hello. Hey, Taylor. The first tree is the most important one.
Though I've talked a lot about the routes that I've written in this short 3 or 4 minutes, it doesn't even begin to cover all of the routes that I've made. There's been a ton of different routes that I've created, all the way from Hydrophobia Percent, which is to beat the water temple without ever touching the water, to bomb all the gossip stones, which sounds trivial, yet there are some restrictions that make it a little tricky. The thing about speedrunning that I want to say too, is that when you speedrun a game, it changes your relationship with that game forever. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, and a lot of new runners sometimes will jump into running their favorite game. I think that sometimes that can be a hazard, because it changes the way that we see the game for the rest of our life. I don't think that I could ever play Ocarina of Time again and be able to casually play through the game, especially when I get to a place like Water Temple and I know I can beat the temple in less than 3 minutes. Yeah, I'll probably glitch it. I think that this is a really important topic that a lot of runners don't talk about, is making sure that you understand that your relationship with the game is going to change. My hope today when I'm talking with all of you is that I can impart my feelings about speedrunning onto you and let you see the joy that I get out of this game. I don't necessarily want you to speedrun Ocarina of Time because I love this game, and I want you to make sure that you love this game as it is right now and not for what it would be if you speedrun it. However, I am hoping that in the course of us talking today, I can convince you to pick up a game that makes you feel good, maybe not your favorite game, and a game that maybe you want to see how it works a little more than just the casual level. So I hope that you enjoy this presentation. I can't wait to talk to all of you. Oh, and as a reoccurring theme, I don't think this applies to other speed games necessarily, but you'll hear me talk about it all the time when it comes to Ocarina of Time. If you ever ask me if I run any percent, I'm going to tell you the same thing. Any percent sucks. In speedrunning sometimes, dumb things.
Okay, So, fun fact there, I couldn't hear any of the audio when it happened, so I hope all of you enjoyed that, and I played it all in my head since I remember everything I said, of course. So, again, yeah, kind of like I talked about in the video too, my name is Eryth. I've been a speedrunner for the past 10 years. Ocarina of Time was kind of like my game of choice that I really got invested and got back into and got into. I think really looking at like speedrunning itself as a hobby is really, really cool. And there's a lot more depth to it than just like, I want to pick a game and I want to go fast. So I think like, as I had talked about in there, like my hope is really going to be that we can talk a little bit about like different resources and ways that you can get into speedrunning. Like what are easy ways to like find out how to do a speedrun and really picking a game that you want to do. One thing I talked about in there that I think is really important is that a lot of people that I've known in my history of running will pick a game that's like one of their favorite games and they'll run it. And then they'll talk about how much they wish they wouldn't have started running that game because of how much it changes your relationship with the game. Kind of like I had said in the video too, like I love Ocarina of Time, is one of my favorite games of all time. But my relationship with the game is a lot different now because I really can't play it casually. I have tried several times, and every time I'm like, I could do this so much faster, and it takes way more skill to do this than to just walk across Hyrule Field. So I'm going to do that because it's skill intensive and I want to do it. So it's like, it's a blessing and a curse. Like, it's really cool to know a lot about a game, but also then you get the burden of you can't ever play that game the same again. Like I said in the video, your relationship with that game changes. So not a deterrent, like you don't necessarily have to say I or not run your favorite game if it's something that's passionate for you and you love it. It's just something to be aware of. So next video I'm going to show is that I'm going to talk about, for those of you who might still be thinking like, well, I would like to speedrun and I want to know like what resources I can use to get into that. I made a video talking about how to use LiveSplit, which is a split software that's very, very good. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do. So I kind of just went through and like use LiveSplit, showed you how to do some cool stuff on it if you're interested in using splits when you do a run. So hang on, I have to do the boss fight with the video player. Okay.
Okay, hey everybody. So second video I'm doing. I'm going to talk about LiveSplit. So very easy, very good program. It can do a lot, and I will show you. It's going to be a lot of cool stuff. So first thing you do, livesplit.org. Click on downloads. This is the main page. Click LiveSplit there. I'll download it right there. As you can see, I downloaded it earlier. And then, excuse me, we're going to go over here. It'll open up like this, and you'll go to Edit Splits. And it's going to bring up this little template here. So at the top you got your game name. This is actually really cool because it searches for just about anything. So let me show you why. If I type in Ocarina, you'd think OOT would come up, but Super Mario 64 Ocarina of Time comes up. Regular OOT, OOT 3D, the Esotericism of Bargo Ocarina of Typewriter. Don't even know what the heck that is. OOT Beta Quest, which is kind of cool. It's a mod. Minecraft Ocarina of Craft. So as you can see, like anything you could think that's a game, it's on here somehow. Also a very cool thing about this. So let's say if we click on OOT, okay? You have run category. It actually will tell you multiple categories here. So you see it took a second to load. It gave like the very basic ones. So look at this. These are all really common, very run categories. So it's like, it's up to date, which is very, very neat. Your game icon here is very simple. Put whatever you want here. For our example here, we're going to put this very scary looking Goron. Now he's up here. We're going to go back to edit splits actually. I didn't mean to cancel out of that. Now we're going to insert segments here. So these will be our splits. And you'll see on the right hand side they start showing up. Now segment names, you can just put whatever you want there. So this will be like fast, mega fast, super duper ultra fast, mega extra fast final destination, Fox only, no items, quick. I guess it's kind of fast. So now that we got all our splits there, you can also do icons. And you can put anything you want there. So 40 burn heals it is. You got Zelda looking Rosalina, JoJo reference. You got Yamcha on a pie. Ganon holding the JoJo's mask. And mini doors, Ed Boy, Vanilla Ice. Okay, so very important piece of this too. You might come here and the icons like might not show up. So this is the thing you could run into is like, let's say you'd go here. Don't worry about this part yet. But let's say you're over here and you've got your icons. You put all of them in there, right? You might notice that like they don't show up. Oop. And the reason why that can happen is if you don't have the display icon set. So it might look like that. You want to make sure that this is clicked. And I said, like, again, don't pretend like we're not here. But it's like, if it looks like this, just know that there's a way to fix that. So now that we've got all of our splits, there is something else that we need to do. So normally when you start a run, you'll put all your splits here. This is all, you know, pretty normal. It's going to be all set like this, and then you're good to go. You also can check something cool here, which is that the timer has an offset that you can set. So certain games, and it's important to check for what you're running, some games set the timer the second that you press start. Others will have an offset of like the minute you get control of the character. So it's good to know, like, if there's an offset, you can just set that so that when you click the timer, it'll start the timer at the offset, so you don't have to time the second you get control of movement. It's helpful for games that don't have cutscenes and you immediately move, because then you don't have to worry about splitting and then putting your hands back on the controller. Okay, so if we go to layout now, let's go to splits. So this is where the fun happens. So as you can see here, there's our icons. They're kind of small, and this is pretty big, right? And it's like, that's not going to show up very well if you're running, like, and you want people to see your icons. So you can use this to decrease the amount of splits you have. This is very convenient too, because if you look at this like this, you can drag this to be bigger and wider. Keep in mind that that also affects how it shows up on your stream if you are streaming your splits on part of your run. Okay, back to layout. So now, if we go back to splits again, you can see some cool things here. You can change the height, which can also help with the icon sizes. So you might be wondering, why would I make it like this thick? But now your icons are much easier to see. Another cool thing about this that I probably won't go through and look for a GIF right now because I don't know where they are buried in my folders, but GIFs also work on here. As long as you have the show icons like here set, it'll put the GIFs there. Okay, so another thing that we can do here is you can also change your background color. So, oh, it is not wanting to show up as a full color, is it? Ah, I see. It's because it's all the way at the bottom. There we go. So you can use that to change the splits here. And as you can see, it's set to alternating, but you can also change it to plain if you want. Vertical as well, so that it has a gradient at the bottom or the side like that. For the purpose of looking obnoxious, we'll keep it like the alternating. So we can go down here too. You also can see that you can set the way that the timer works, like hundredths, tenths, or seconds. If you have a game that maybe is shorter, sometimes the hundredths can help, but most games don't really care about this. Go down lower here, same thing with the accuracy. You don't really need to worry too much about this stuff down here. I think this is pretty good for split section. Your title section, which would be up here, you can also change the color. It is a separate slider, put under title. Okay, and that's kind of all you need to know here. The rest are all your options here. You know, finish the run counts. It'll tell you there like how many have you done versus how many you haven't finished. Very basic stuff you can mess around with. This is a little more important one. Just kind of helps you know splits. So I think if you are interested in running at all, you probably have some basic fundamental understanding of it. We call them GLODs, right? Gold splits. Those are when we're ahead, we're doing well. Green splits are usually when we're ahead, but we're not necessarily gaining time, so it's not the best. And then we've got red splits down here too, where you never want to see these; they're just bad. You can also change this here. This is like that secondary part of the background. I mean, this is not that alternating piece, so this also affects other parts of it as opposed to the alternating. But for the sake of that, we can put a purple there. That is obnoxious. We're keeping that. Another cool thing though about this, so let's say that you don't want to use color, you want to use an image, right? Yes, you can put an image here, and so for the sake of this, let's put something funny down here. Yeah, Suichi's not having a good run this time. So as you can see, the opacity can also be lowered or heightened. You can also blur the image too, if you want to do that as well. You can also change the font. this changes the font down here for the timer. You can also set the font for the splits as well, but like the names here like that. But you know exactly what we're about to do. So there's your Comic Sans timer. We really want to make this a learning experience for everyone. And in timer itself, you can also change the background color. You won't see anything like this though, because we're using image and it's set to plain. So there we go, that's better. Playing with delta color, so it just copies. You can also override the color layout here if you want, and it changes the color of the split itself, or the timer itself rather. So if you really wanted to, like, you know, and now it's blue. Okay, and another one is this previous segment, so you can mess around with these two, which is the bottom. You know, this is a lot of stuff is just colors itself is what I'm shaking to right now, so we're gonna exit out of this part. I think the thing that you want to keep in mind most is, like, there are ways to put audio on this as well. That would be something to ask other people in game-specific discords, because I don't know how to do that myself, but you can put audio whenever you split so it says stuff, and it is not hard to do from what I understand. I just have not learned how to do it. Most importantly, at the end, is when you're done with all of this, you want to make sure to save your layout. So this will be like Shuichi splits. And now, you also want to save your splits like this. So this would be like, I'll just put test split. Okay, can't even spell. So now you'll notice if I, oh no, it's gone. I need my live split back. So I'm gonna open up live split and there you go, saves the whole thing. So it always saves your most recent. So if you're running something consistently, every time you open it, as long as you save it like that, it should open the most recent. Anyway, that's all I have to say about using live split. It's very fun. Play around with it.
Uh-oh. Okay. Please don't ever make your splits look like that. If I ever see you streaming the splits like that, I will berate you if I ever find you. Please make your splits look good. But yeah, so I think live split's really good. It's come a long way from other programs like WSplit that used to exist, and there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with it. And like I said there, I've never messed around with the audio, but you can put audio on your splits too. It's a really, really good program. And if you're new to running, splits are really, really helpful. It helps you keep track of your time. It helps you keep, obviously, it helps you be able to kind of see like where you're improving and where you're setting back at. I think one of the things that a lot of new runners get stuck with is if you run on just a blank timer, it can be helpful, but it doesn't really tell you what sections you're struggling with. The convenience of a timer isn't to put pressure on you from being like, look, you're 2 minutes ahead on your run right now, better not mess up, right? It's like that can be kind of anxiety provoking. You're like, oh my goodness, I hope I don't botch Fire Temple, and then you botch it because you're so nervous. The point of the splits is to give you a reference point, because when you look at like long periods of time on like a single timer, or let's say your run has like 2 splits on it, then it's kind of hard to tell, like, I don't know where things in here are losing time. So if you have individual splits, it helps you be able to see, like, okay, this is how I did compared to the last time in this segment. So, like, if you can segment it out, it tells you where you need to practice. So, yeah, so, live split's really good. I would highly recommend using that. And then I have one last video, and then I'm going to talk a little bit and answer questions. So give me a second here. So this last video that I'm doing, I'll explain while I battle the final boss of the video player. This last video, what I'm talking about is how to actually find a community if you're looking to run a game. I think that for a lot of new people, like, they get interested in, okay, this is a game I want to run, but I don't quite know how to get into it, right? That can be kind of daunting, especially if there's a game that's like really popular and you don't know where to start. I'm going to just kind of show like ways to get involved with the community that can be really helpful, because communities in speedrunning are everything, and they are extremely, extremely helpful for being able to improve and feel connected to the game that you're running. Okay.
Hey guys, I'm going to talk to you about the last piece of my presentation today before we get into answering questions and talking more individually. So, I want to talk about where can you find resources to get better. We've already talked about live split, we've already talked about what it can feel like to be really into running, so now I'm going to show you how to get resources. So first thing we're going to do is going to go to speedrun.com. This is going to be where we go for almost everything, and I will show you why. So, first things first. If you decide on a game, maybe you've watched someone play a lot and you're really interested in doing what they do, maybe you like what you see when you're watching runs, or maybe you're just curious what the run has. I think the first thing to do is come to speedrun.com and find your game. So, for example, let's do something that's more popular and then do something that maybe it's not as popular. So let's start off with Ocarina. Well, I can talk more about that. Let's do Banjo-Kazooie. Right? So we're going to type in Banjo-Kazooie. There it is. Okay. So, as we can get on here, and we see Banjo-Kazooie, we already have some great resources here. We've got Discord, and we got streams. So that's awesome. So, the best thing that you can do is go to the Discord. And I'm not going to click on this, but I will show Discord that I'm in. But as you can see here, boom, easy money. You just go straight on there and click right on it, and you can go straight to the Discord. Sometimes they have more things up here. I think that if you look on speedrun.com itself, it might not be as effective as if you do like speedrun.com banjo. I can't spell, man. Oh my goodness. Give me the quick. There we go. So let's try this. Yeah, as you can see, I don't know what's different, but this one gives you more. So there is a Banjo Speedruns website that's linked here. And they have individuals, there's IL, there's categories, which are common, and it's Tui and Kazooie. So as you can see here, like a lot of great resources to check out if you were interested in this game. So this is just an example. It's very good. I think that looking at the streams can also be really useful because it tells you who's running. As you can see right now, looks like we got this guy Dingo Slayer. Stivity, who's the best runner, is not on right now, but it's like you could stay part of the community by watching people that way and also going to Discord. So let's do a less popular game now, and I'm just going to type it in up here because that seemed to give us more results. So let's do Golden Sun, speedrun.com. People don't like running RPGs as often. So what do we got? Right off the bat, as we can see, we already have resources, we already have guides, we've got a Discord, and we have streams. Cool thing about looking at something like guides is that they have like different things here that you can look at right off the bat. So 80% guide, excellent. 80% guide without Mia, excellent. You've got all these resources right here, and all you'd have to do is come to the site to read it. I think that while guides are really useful, what's better when you're trying to get better at a speed run is to watch people that are really good and see what they run and kind of emulate what they do. I would say something to be cautious of is not to run the hardest category first, because as we know, running a new category or a new game and going straight for world record strats is going to make you feel burnt out pretty quick. I think you want to definitely avoid the burnout when you're new to a game, because some strats can be really tough, especially a game like this. If you were going to run a longer game, you get fatigued pretty quick. As you can see, they also have resources, which is awesome. There's files here, there's notes about the Jin, there's the speedrunning Discord, which they now have auto-linked right here, or hyperlinked here, so excellent, right? Very, very good. I think another cool thing, so if we go back to Banjo-Kazooie, and we look at guides, see, beginner's tutorial, excellent. So if you're a brand new runner and you're considering running Hundo, this is awesome, because you can already look at it. Sure, the user might be deleted, but the guide is most likely still going to be there. So here it is. The entire video is there. So it's like a lot of runners do this now where they'll make guides and it's just a video and you follow it. And the nice thing about this is if you're trying a strat that you can't get down and the video isn't enough to explain it, go to the Discord and ask some questions. And that's actually what I'm going to show next. So I'm going to open up my Discord here, and we're going to go all the way down to... that's the Ganon Discord. All the way down to the OOT Discord here. So one thing I really like about the OOT Discord is that we've got a general chat for asking questions, not always speedrun related, but it's more community building. There's always resources here, which is great. Stuff about EverDrive, N64. If you're trying to figure out how to get a game on a particular platform, like for example, I play on Wii Virtual Console and I play the Japanese version, this would be the place to go because it's the fastest version and everyone here would be able to help you. They also have a complete section here for questions and advice, which is really, really nice because that means if you're running any of these categories, you can ask questions. And if your category for some reason isn't on here, you can just go to general. And people in these kinds of Discords are almost always very, very nice. People in speedrunning communities, it used to be worse about 10 years ago when I was first running, but like they're not that litigious anymore. People really want to help you get better. It's not a competition. It's about improving together as a team. Other cool things here is that there's a speedrunning section that has videos and other random stuff that's not included up here. There's a routing section, so if you're curious and you have a route that you really like, this is a great way to keep up on potential new things that might show up on your radar. Yeah, so OOT is a very big game, so I think this is a little daunting to look at, and also OOT's got a lot of people running it as opposed to a smaller game like Golden Sun, for example. So I think when you pick your game, just keep that in mind. The bigger the community, the more resources there are going to be. The smaller the community, the more niche it's going to be, and it might be a little bit harder to get some traction. But don't let that deter you. If you like the game, find the community. They will exist, and they're always passionate no matter what. Last thing I would say about like all of this is just that make sure that the game that you like is fun. Make sure that it is something that you're interested in doing. And I would say with any speedrun game, give yourself at least a good month to learn the game, and even a couple months afterward to do a couple runs of it. You're never going to get the perfect run, but you're sure as heck going to be able to get some runs that are really good that you're probably satisfied with. I'll talk more about this kind of at length when this video is over, because I want to do a little exposition on that. So thanks again for listening. I really hope this is helpful, and honestly, I really encourage and hope that everybody finds a game that maybe they could try speedrunning, even if it's just for a little bit of time. I think it's a really fun hobby.
Okay. One sec. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I mean, we're kind of nearing the end of the presentation too, just because most of it was those videos I wanted to show and speak for me. I think just like the big takeaway from what I was talking about there too, though, is like speedrunning communities have also come a very long way since 2010. And people are like really want to help. I think it used to be very competitive and people would like compare themselves based on like what their time was. But right now it's like a lot of the community shuns that behavior and people really just want people to improve. So I think last kind of takeaway message that I have for this is like, I hope that like through watching this and the stuff that I provided, that maybe you're considering running something. And if you didn't before, maybe you're thinking about it. And if you were thinking about it before, I would just like totally encourage it. A lot of people do something called 72-hour challenge. I think that's what it is. And it's like you have 3 days to learn a brand new run. It might be 24-hour. No, it's a 12-hour challenge. Excuse me. You have 12 hours to learn a run and try to do it. And it's like it doesn't matter if the run is good. It just matters that you do it. And I think that like being able to come into a game that you really like and just work on it and kind of build community through people who are also running can be a really cool experience. I think that some of the best people that I've ever met have been my speedrun friends, and it's because together we've worked through like trying to figure out how to do stuff together and sharing like, oh, you're using that strat, you should try this strat because it's faster, and like, oh yeah, this is something that we're working on, do you have any advice for me? So it's like a lot of it is sort of like hunting for these like golden like holy grails of speedrunning stuff and like keeping up with the community. Speedrunning itself is just a very, very fun hobby that, like, as you've seen in the video I posted first, like I'm very passionate about, and I hope that through this presentation that maybe you also would consider trying to speedrun a game for fun. So thank you. And I think at this point I'm just going to open it up to if anybody has any questions here.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
So
We should walk up. You should walk up in frame.
I should
and ask
walk
your
up?
question.
Come
Okay.
on, Bull.
all right, hello. I'm in frame, and I am asking you a question about speedrunning. So you were talking a little bit about how to go about choosing a game. Are there any particular qualities that strike out to you as this would make a good speed game versus something else that you really enjoy?
Yes, I think it's kind of a tricky question to answer because it really depends on what you're interested in. So for example, like people used to joke on my stream all the time. They'd be like, hey, Eryth wins 100% glitchless OOT. And I would be like, after my any percent world record, right? It's like, I don't like games that don't have a lot of glitches, but that's my preference. So like, I gravitate to games that like have a lot of exploits and a lot of tech skill because for me, like that's fun. I like games where I have to like do tech and it's really tough. So I think it really depends. Like glitch heavy games tend to be like more in my ballpark that I really like. That's why I really gravitate towards the Zelda games because most of them have a lot of glitches. But yeah, I think it really depends. Like glitches make a game really fun. I think if you really like the game and you like the way that the game plays and how the game feels, it's really fun. I think it's like a lot of it's just kind of looking at like what aspects of the game specifically do you enjoy? And if it's not something that you would enjoy over an extended period of time, I think that's a good indicator that you might not want to run it.
Cool. That's a good answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll ask one.
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay, so I just started running Half-Life. How would you suggest to people how you practice a speedrun, especially one that is very long? Like, do you usually say start at certain hard tricks or start at a certain point? Like, how would you go about practicing for someone who just got into one of these?
Yeah. Great question. So there's something that we talk about in the speedrunning community, and we say don't practice in a vacuum. And so what that means is, like, if you're failing at a trick and you're like, oh my god, like this trick is super hard, I want to like get it down, and you sit there and you grind that trick out for like hours on hours and hours, when you do the actual run, it actually doesn't help as much as you think, because you're going to get to that point and you're not going to be able to do it because all you've practiced is that vacuum. So I think the best way to practice is to practice segments, and it kind of goes back to like the split, where it's like, look where your split is, practice that split segment is the best way to do it. Because what tends to happen, and I think it's really funny, is like I can't tell you how many runs where I'm like, okay, I'm doing Fire Temple, and Fire Temple's hard, so I'm going to practice Fire Temple so I can do a really good job at it. And I'm getting there, I'm going through the run, and the stupid trick that I've never had any trouble with kills the run. And I'm sitting here like, why did the most baby easy strat ever end up ruining my run? And then I go and practice the baby strat forever, even though there's no point. So I think it's like the best way to practice is definitely to practice segments. I think going back to the Discord piece, if something like Half-Life, I think the best thing to do is like find the Discord and ask for like segments that like people have save states of, and get those save states and practice those segments. Because I'm sure there are like, because with Half-Life it's a really tech intensive game and it's really tricky. Like a lot of the speedrun tests are super tough. So it's like find the way to get the save states for those and practice those segments. Like that they give you is the best way to do that. Yes, biggest thing is don't practice in a vacuum.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question.
Ooh, what's your question, Relay?
This is actually from the Twitch chat, by the way. Echo Fungan asked, what is your favorite or most entertaining speedrun to watch outside of Ocarina of Time?
Oh my goodness. Gosh, my favorite speedrun to watch outside of Ocarina of Time. It's probably old Majora's Mask, so it's still Zelda, but old Majora's Mask any percent before a bunch of like new glitches were discovered. I really actually love Half-Life 2 speedrun because it's just crazy. I love the Half-Life 2 speedrun. It is just like beyond my comprehension. I don't even know how the bunny hopping works, but yeah, probably one of those two. Majora's Mask and Half-Life 2 are probably my two favorites to watch.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. I'll be back if there's another Twitch question.
Okay. Yeah. Any
I have a
other
question.
questions? Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. So you talked about blue percent in Ocarina of Time, and you also talked about like any percent, which is kind of a category that a lot of speedruns have. Could you maybe talk a bit more about like those categories that tend to be frequently in a whole bunch of different games, and then why someone may want to choose doing one category of speedrun over another?
Yes, I think I understand the question. Let me try to answer. So like the first question was kind of like, how does any percent, like, what is it exactly, right? And like, how does it like titrate over to other games? Like, what is any percent? The first part of that question?
Sorry. So like,
okay.
So any percent is a category of speedrun that all games have, right? And there are other categories that frequently all games will have in some shape or another, like 100% as an example. I was hoping you could talk a little bit to like, hey, what are those like broad categories that tend to exist for all games, and why someone might want to start with one or another, or just generally gravitate towards one or another?
Great. So I think that the most common speedrun categories in any individual game is going to be glitchless, any percent, and hundo, or 100%. Those are like the three big ones you tend to see the most often. I think that it's kind of individually specific, like certain games that have like, so for example, like Zelda games have dungeons, so a lot of them will be like, oh, this category is just beat all the dungeons. I think any percent and 100% are probably the two most common though that you see. And I think gravitating towards those, like, I would say if you're going to gravitate to one or the other, any percent tends to be a pretty good starting point. As Hundo has obviously would have a lot more stuff since you have to collect a lot more. I think what you're talking about there too is also important because I know I talked about in the video, like speedrun fatigue is also really important to understand. I think that categories that are longer than anywhere, I think less than 2 hours is very good. 2 to 4 hours is still doable. I think 4+ hours, you have to really like the game that you're running to be putting that much time into a game. And it's not because it's like, oh, the run is bad. Like the run can be super interesting and have tons of cool stuff in it. But if it's 4.5 hours and your run dies 2 hours in, you have to restart the entire thing. And you can only do so many runs in a day of that game. And if the run dies to something that you don't have control over, it can be really frustrating to want to keep playing. So I think like a good place to start is definitely like pick a game, look at what the categories are, and then like go back to the game specific Discord and ask that question, right? Like, hey, I'm a new runner. I'm really interested in running something in this game, but I don't know where to start. And the community will like absolutely just run in and be like, oh yeah, you should run this category. This is a great beginner category.
Thank you.
Thanks. That was a good question. That is a important one actually. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get it. Oh my god, Relay.
Let's get it.
Relay cameo. I was thinking you have a decade of experience from what you mentioned, both in the videos and what you said over voice now. I was thinking, is there anything of that experience that you are just longing to see? I feel like, you know, with your experience for being in it so long, there's got to be something that you haven't seen before yet that you're just like, or is there a potential of something that you'd like to see in the future that hasn't really been done yet?
From Ocarina of Time specifically, or just like speedrunning in general?
Just speedrunning in general, just of all of your speedrunning experience in general, would you say that there's something that you've been like, you know, it'd be really cool if, because you had a lot of those really creative, different types of speedruns that you came up with. Is there anything that's just come to your mind, like, you know, wouldn't it be cool if this?
Yeah, I think like one thing that I think about all the time is like, I really want better technology for multi-world stuff because I would love to do like co-op speedruns of something like Ocarina of Time. They do have a thing that lets you play Ocarina of Time with other people, but it's really janky. And okay, I guess like very, very, very short story on this. Me and some other speedrunners were like, yeah, we're gonna do like an all dungeons run together. And we found out that because of the way the game works with its coding, anytime someone would empty a bottle and pick something up with it, it would overwrite the bottle for everyone. So we would all be in dungeons trying to do tricks. It's like, my trick failed. It's like, wait, where's my fish? It's like, oh, I just dropped my fish to do my wrong warp. It's like, so we're all sitting here frustrating each other because the bottles are all coded incorrectly. So yeah, it was really funny, but I would really like to see stuff like that. I just watched a task the other day that was so cool of like 2-player Super Mario 64, and I was losing it. I was like, this is amazing. So I would say like co-op speedruns for games that aren't normally co-opable would be something I would love for them to develop better in the future, because right now it's still in its infancy, so it's a little janky.
I like that because, you know, you mentioned the task speedrun with Mario, and that made me think about, I saw one for Left 4 Dead 2, a task speedrun with like a 4-player co-op speedrun. That was insane. But, yeah.
That one's so crazy. I like throwing the Molotovs and damage boosting buddy hopping. It's so cool. So cool. Yeah, definitely co-op stuff though. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I got another one from the Twitch. If I still think we still have time for the stream. Furality updates are on the way, but not ready yet. So we're going to still keep going on with these questions for the time being.
Okay.
This is from Twitch streamer, Twitch user Retro Gamer Bay.
Ooh, okay.
Would it be bad doing runs without learning any of the strats to start off?
I don't think necessarily it would be a bad, like, I think if you know what it is you're trying to do, it's good to be familiar with the game. I think, though, that you want to have a baseline. I think you want to kind of know what it is you're trying to run. like it sounds like the question that's coming there is like I have a game that I really like and I want to run it and like I want to figure out how I can improve at the game. I think for something like that, it would be okay to play it just to like practice your basic movement, because a lot of things in speedrunning, like basic movement is very important, and like having a very good fundamental comfort with your character when you're playing a game is very, very important. Like basic movement can save you so much time in a run. So I would say it's kind of like yes and no. Yes, I think it's okay to play and try to go as fast as you can on your own time through your own knowledge. But if you really want to get better and you really want to like get into a speed run of a game and get like the most up-to-date knowledge, I think absolutely you should be at least watching somebody do a run of something that you're interested in, so that you can kind of see what stuff they're doing that you don't already know. I think that's a big thing with running is like as running, you don't ever want to get stagnant. You should always be wanting to know what's the next strat, what's the next fastest thing I can be doing. And if the strat's really hard, you can be deterred from it, but it's like know that the option is there and you can work up to being able to do that strat eventually. So sorry I didn't really answer the question, but like, yes, basic movement. No, if you want to get better, I would say definitely watch somebody who's running something that you're interested in.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I got one.
Okay.
Okay, so you were talking about potentially fatigue and getting burned out of a run. Do you have any tips to prevent that from happening?
Yeah, let me think. Because I used to run Twilight Princess, and it was 4.5 hours long, and I definitely got tired. I think that taking a break and going over to another game for a little while can also be something that's really helpful. I think like practicing segments of a run can really help with burnout, so that you can not feel like you're doing the entire run of it. I mean, that question is answering more around the time frame, not about the burnout itself. Let me try to answer a little better. I think the best way to avoid burnout is to play a game that you're interested in and maybe switch categories in between the run. So it's like if you're running one game but you're running a certain category and you're getting really tired and burnt because you just run that category the whole time, I would switch over to doing other things in that same game. So like I had talked about, for me, I used to run Medallion Stones of Trials, like the all dungeons, and I ran that for a very long time, but then I started getting like, I want more. Like I've been running the same category for like 8 months now. I want a new category. So I just switched to doing something else, and that made me feel revitalized because I was doing new things in the same game. So I would say like mix it up within the game is the best way to avoid the burnout.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. I think it seems like everyone's questions are done, so I think that's a perfect place to end it. So thanks everybody for joining. I hope that this is really useful information, and I appreciate you all coming by.